Welcome to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. This is the podcast that celebrates the quirks, the courage, and the brilliance of being human. I'm your host, Jeanene Tracy, transformational coach and curious explorer. Let's dive in and uncover the magic of being wonderfully human. Welcome back to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. Oh, this episode's so special for me. I'm joined by someone I truly, truly adore. She is my beautiful friend, Fleur Watkins. She brings so much heart and joy and depth to every single interaction she has, and I think you're going to love this chat as much as I did. We talk about her unexpected journey into Lego Masters. Yep, she started building Lego again when she was in her 40s, and she ended up on national TV, which was pretty incredible to watch. What you'll love most hearing about is what happened behind the scenes, from the pressure of being creative on demand to forming a team with someone she'd literally just met, and where they met is very time and place appropriate. It might even bring back a few memories for some of us. And she shares how she leaned into the surprising joy of letting go of control. I think you're going to love this. Fleur opens up about the tough stuff, including her full-on and terrifying, if you ask me, experience of social media bullying that came after the show aired. It's raw, it's real, and I really hope it makes us all rethink the way we show up online. We also talk about parenting, especially raising a quirky kid in a world that doesn't always know how to embrace difference. Fleur is an incredible mother, and she shares how she's raising her son Heston with love, honesty, and big adventures. And she talks about why she's all about preparing him for the real world, not putting him in a box. Oh, this episode's so filled with moments that are hilarious, they're heartbreaking, hugely and deeply human. I think you'll love her as much as I do. Let's chat with Fleur Watkins. Welcome back to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. I have an incredibly special guest here today. Hugely honoured to have her sitting in the chair next to me.
Aww.
Beautiful friend of mine, incredible human being, inspiring. Fleur Watkins has done so much for so many, and she doesn't even realise it. You know, it's just the way that Fleur carries herself in the world and the way she considers people and she considers her impact on people is just, I've seen it time and time again, and it's just so inspiring, Fleur.
That's so lovely.
Welcome.
I would say the same about you. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to finally have you on the show.
Yeah.
Fleur is probably known to a lot of audience members as an incredible Lego master. Fleur started her Lego journey only recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
How
I
long
was
ago?
about 42 when I started it, and I'm 48 now, so it is quite old to start into Lego. But yes.
And for those who are not very good at mathematics, I'm working out that 6 years.
Yes, 6 years ago.
So 6 years ago, what happened? Why did you suddenly at 42? How did you get into Lego at 42?
So I watched the first season of Lego Masters, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. People are building their own stuff. They're not just building from a set. That's really creative. I wonder if I could do that. And so I got a set of bricks, basic bricks, and I was pretty terrible. But I just kept practicing. And then sort of a year later, a friend of mine had been on the season 2, and she rang me and said, oh, they're looking for a woman. Can I put you forward for the show? I said, please do not. That is insane. Don't do that.
Wow.
I'm not experienced enough to go on that show. But she did anyway, and I interviewed for it, and then,
So this is 1 year? You'd been building for 1 year?
I'd been building for 1 year.
Wow.
And,
Had you had any guidance in that year?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
Wow.
I just kind of built my own stuff. Like, I quite liked building food, so I did a bit of food building, and she saw that. And and then I just heard nothing for like 9 weeks, so I thought, oh well, that's fine.
Can we just go back a step? Can you tell us about the audition? Because for people who are curious about, because it's a reality TV show in a way, right? It's a real life, you're playing you. How does that audition play out?
Well, there's a few steps. So the first step was a Skype interview with production. just to meet them, and they just talk to you and it was during COVID times, so we just met over Zoom, and then as I said, I heard nothing for 9 weeks, so I just went, okay, well, that obviously didn't happen, that's fine, because I didn't think I'd be able to do it anyway. And then I got a call from production really only 2 weeks before they started filming, and the executive producer said, oh my God, I've only just seen your Skype interview, and are you still interested in auditioning? And I was like, this is nuts. I went, oh, okay. And he goes, okay, well, it's going to be this afternoon.
Oh, wow. Drop everything.
What's your address? Because we're going to courier you a suitcase of bricks. So literally 2 hours later, this big suitcase arrives, and I'm not allowed to open it until I'm on Zoom with him.
No pressure.
No
pressure at all.
So it is for me, like for most people, it's a group audition where you're building with a partner that you're applying with, and you get set a challenge and you have to build that challenge. For me, it was a solo 3-hour audition with just the executive producer, where I had to just talk with him while I was building, get set a challenge, and it was like build a character and build them into a story. And I was packing it, and like you literally can only use the bricks that are in the box that you've never seen in the suitcase. And so it was like all these random colours, and I was just throwing it together. But honestly, what I learned about it was it's mainly about how comfortable I am talking when I'm building, because when you're on TV, you don't want people who are going to, there's amazing builders, but they're silent, you know, they'll sit there and just be focused on. And what he wanted was someone who was going to be able to just have a chat, you know, and show their personality and be natural. And
did you do that in the audition?
I think so. Like we got on really well straight away, and we just sort of bonded over random UK, you know, comedies and stuff.
Wow.
And I think he actually rang me, it was about a week later, and so that night he said, oh, we're going to move you on to doing the psych assessment as well. So I had a 2-hour psych assessment, I had to do police checks, I had to do a medical, I had to go to a doctor and show them that I could duck walk.
Duck walk?
Yeah.
Well, wait, what's that got to do with Lego?
What
duck
does it have
walk.
to do with Lego? Duck walk is like walking like, you know, like your knees out and stuff, like low, in a low squat across the floor. And I was literally like, what has this got to do with anything? Like,
were you wondering, what the hell is this show about?
Like,
what are they going to make me do on this show?
Seriously, if I was auditioning for Ninja Warrior, I get it.
Yeah.
But for Lego Masters, why do I need to duck walk? And the doctor actually did it with me, because he was like, this is ridiculous. But so I did all of that. And then I remember being in Kmart about a week later, and the producer called me. And he said, so we want you to be on the show. And within 15 minutes of starting your audition, I knew I was going to cast you.
Wow.
Because it's just about you being comfortable with being who you are. And you'll learn the brick stuff. And I was like, oh, no pressure. And it was really definitely trial by fire. But yeah, so
how did that moment feel when you got that phone call? Were you expecting it?
No.
And so you're in Kmart. Take us back there. Like, what's your feelings around that?
I thought there was probably a good chance that I would get cast, because they'd put me through the medical, the police checks. They'd done all the stuff that would be the last minute stuff, and then they send you, I think they send your details to the network, and the network will approve whether or not to cast you. But it did sort of still shock me, and because it was really late in the piece, so I was literally going to be filming a week from then.
Wow.
And I didn't know how long I was going away for or what, anything. And
it's a big ask, isn't it, for someone to completely throw in their life when you don't know how long that's going to be for, because that could be up to how many weeks? 12?
Yeah, we were away for 12 weeks in the end. So
that's a long time.
Those who got right to the final was 13 weeks. But it was crazy because, you know, I was lucky. I didn't have a job. I was stay-at-home mum at the time, so I could make those arrangements very fast to get care for Heston and stuff. But a lot of people had to quit their jobs and that, because 3 months, and you don't know whether you're going to get eliminated first and you're going to be there for 2 weeks, or are you going to get further in the game and then you're there, you know, past Christmas into January. And So yeah, it was very surreal experience.
So did you ever find out what the heck the duck walk was about? Did you ask the
Nah,
producer?
I did.
I think we've got to ask. That's a
do.
question.
I do.
That's insane.
It just has no relevance.
No relevance.
Even there was, you know, when you like block your nose and you blow and your ears have to pop. There's an actual name for that, but I can't remember what that is. I had to do that, and I'm like, what is the point of that?
What is this show about?
You know, yeah, it's super weird, but it's obviously just a standard checklist of stuff that they do to make sure that people are medically fit, psychologically fit to go on the show. So
yeah, so you don't have a meltdown.
No.
Which is also very filmable. If you do have a meltdown, did you have any on set? Or anyone in your cohort?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? What's the most entertaining moment that people might not have seen that you can talk about?
Look, there's lots of moments in the brick pit. If you're frustrated, you forget that there's cameras in there. There's quite a few times that I'd go in and swear because I was frustrated about something, and then my producer would just be like, remember that there are cameras in there and we can hear all of that and we can't use any of that. I was like, okay. So it's probably a lot of that. You're mic'd up the whole time, even when you go to the bathroom. So
Wow.
there's that.
That's a real invasion of privacy, isn't it?
It's
How does
full
that
on.
feel to be, so how many hours a day would that be?
You're
16?
mic'd up from like 7 in the morning till 6, 7 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
a long time. And you must forget that you've got the
You
mic on you after
totally forget.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
You totally forget.
That's
You forget
incredible.
that the cameras are even there most
Yeah.
of the time
Yeah.
until there's those moments that something big happens. Like, you know, we had the episode where the street sign that we made fell down and smashed into thousands of pieces, and every camera in the room, there's like 14 cameras, they're just like vroom, vroom, vroom. And you're just like, oh my God.
There's the limelight.
And you're just like crying and feeling really exposed. So yeah, there's definitely those. I mean, our season, like our cast got on really well and we're pretty close. So there wasn't too many major moments, but there's definitely a couple of conversations off camera where producers would come in and have to talk to someone about their conduct or something. So
The drama behind the drama.
you know,
Yeah.
like it's always designed. It's funny though, because Lego Masters isn't really looking for villains. They're not looking for the drama comes from the art and from the bricks and the pressure of trying to be creative. The drama's innately there. It's not like maths where, and you watch a show like Married at First Sight and you go, how do those people pass the psych test? Because it is like 200 questions and they're pretty big questions. They're like, you know, have you ever thought about killing your family? You're like, well, obviously not. But you think,
Wow.
like, yeah, like,
Do you think maybe the psych test for maths might be a little bit different? They want people who
I
are a
don't-
little bit
well,
edgy
maybe
and a
it's-
little bit kind of...
maybe it's the same and they're
Crazy.
like, yes, 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 good, perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
There's a threshold. That
Totally.
threshold's... Yeah.
But Lego Masters isn't like that. It's very kind and they are really respectful of like your personal. They're not looking to tell your sob story or backstory. They'll ask you permission. Do you want to talk about that? And there were things that I at the time said no, and they were really respectful of that. Like, it was a fantastic experience from a production perspective.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because quite often, you know,
It's
those
not the
kinds of
case.
stories are jumped on, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because it's sales.
Absolutely.
It's eyes on the prize. It's drama behind the
Absolutely.
drama.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to a little bit about drama outside of the show. We'll talk a little bit about social media and how that impacted you. But let's just talk about the show itself. And so you came third
We came
in the show. You're in the third.
We came fourth technically.
Round.
We got to the semi-finals.
Yep.
So we were one episode. The last episode we weren't in, but
Yep.
we got to right to there, which was just like unbelievable. I thought I'd get eliminated first. I didn't know a lot, hadn't got a lot of experience, and I was in a room with people who were very experienced. But somehow we managed to get through 13 episodes out of 14, and it was just such a ride. Learnt so much. Like, it is a real, like, it's really interesting, the human ability to just thrive in a situation that you're so uncomfortable in. Like, if you're in a position where you have to, it's that sink or swim thing. It's incredible what you will suddenly be able to do, because you think, I don't know where any of those came from, you know, and getting on the same page as someone else creatively as well. That's a challenge in itself, you know. I was paired with someone I'd never met. We met on the first day of filming. We met actually getting our COVID tests together. And it was
what a way to bond.
Hi, I'm Fleur, put that up my nose. Hi, I'm Sarah, and we're going to be spending the next, I'm not sure how many weeks together.
Wow.
And she was
incredible.
a really artistic person, but no background in Lego really either.
Yeah.
So it was like, we are, you know, we just kind of went in with it and went, you know, we don't know each other, but let's just have each other's back. And whatever happens, we'll just support each other, and we did.
That's
and,
incredible.
You know, even though we are really different people in some ways, like, I think we both brought a real passion to be creative and artistic and to stay true to who we were. We didn't perform.
How did you do that when there's so many things that are just coming at you? Like, you just talked about the humanity, and it's amazing how you can get through things, and you managed to do, you know, 13 weeks, 12 weeks of really nurturing yourself and being true to yourself. And the show shows that. You know, you truly demonstrate that you're very comfortable in chatting on camera. Very comfortable, just having a laugh. I loved watching you because you were just really entertaining and fun. You were happy, you were joyous, and it's so beautiful to watch someone just being joyous in that space. How did you do that when there's all this other stuff going on?
I think, how could you not though? Like, you know, when you've watched the show and then you're suddenly there and there's these big garage doors and they open up for the first time and you walk onto the set and you're like, it's like Disneyland. It's like, oh my God, it's so amazing. And the brick pit's there and it's got everything you could ever imagine. And Hamish, you know, he's so fun. And Brickman, I was like such a fan. And I think, how can you not be joyous in that, you know, I got to take 3 months out of my normal life where I'm mum or where I've been a software specialist, all the things that I did. And for this 3-month period, my only job was to be creative. And that's amazing. So I felt such joy all the time. I think, you know, some people were like, oh, this girl's a bit nuts because she's like, oh, we're so excited. But I literally was. I was like, this is the coolest experience. And some days so hard, like, you know, there were tears, there's all the emotions that you could possibly go through. But I felt so lucky to have that experience. And I just think, if you're going into something, any reality show as well, if it's 3 months, you have to just be yourself, because you can't put on a persona and then hold that persona for 3 months, 12, 13 hours a day. That's too hard. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to be who I am, and you know, probably a bit different than other people. And you know, and when we did fail, you know, we had some builds that weren't spectacular. I just think you got to laugh with it and just go, gave it a shot. You know?
Exactly. But how do you stay positive though? Like, I know, you know, you mentioned that you just met Sarah on the day as you're having your COVID test. Funny picture there.
I know.
And then obviously there's going to be, it doesn't matter whether it's your best friend, whether it's your partner, there are going to be differences. If you're spending 3 months with somebody, particularly when it comes to creativity, because we're all so different
100%.
Creatively. And so how do you then stay positive? And I'm asking this question because we'll have listeners who are not in this particular situation, but in other situations where they're with people, with potentially a group of people, because you're with a multitude of people who have different point of views or they have different perspectives. How do you stay true to yourself in that environment and you stay creative? What did you do to keep you going? How did you look after yourself?
Yeah, sure. I think it's really relevant. Like, even when you're doing a show like that, it's almost like being in a marriage for a few months, because you're also living with these people at night. You're all in the same hotel and all that sort of stuff. You have dinner every night. And I think in a way it's easier to do it with someone that you don't know, Because if I'd been with someone I know, I might have been less filtered sometimes. And likewise for her, you know, we might have been more likely to, you know, we think about like Scotty and Owen who were in our season, and they would have fights, you know, and they love each other to pieces, and they were an awesome team. But they didn't have any filter with the way that they communicated, because they didn't have to, because they already knew each other.
Yeah.
But for us, there is the need to navigate the personalities and to stay calm and positive, because that's going to impact that other person. So if I start being negative, that's not going to positively impact her at all. That's going to make her feel like not good enough, or that I don't like her idea, or like she can take that really personally, and that's going to ruin our dynamic. So being
it's
positive.
so insightful for you to think that way, though, because a lot of humans would just go, I don't like this, and I don't want to do it this way, so I don't think we should do it this way. So it's really kind and insightful and empathetic that you see that.
And she was great with that too, and she was such an artistic person and came with such beautiful ideas and stuff, so it was easy to be on the same page in lots of ways. But what I did do every night was made sure I took time to myself. So, you know,
how did you do that?
Straight after dinner, I'm switching off. I'm like, there's the odd night where you're practicing because it hasn't gone well and you've got to thrash out something in the night to be ready for the next day. But in general, as much as I could, go for walks, just watch some random documentary, like switch off and have that space.
What's your go-to random documentary? What would you watch?
True crime.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's your favourite?
I'm so obsessed. Like anything true crime, Netflix, like Real World, like, you know, Apollo 13, anything like natural disaster. I've watched them all. I'm running out. I need more.
What do you like about it? What's the attraction?
I think the psychology behind it, like,
yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah,
I love that.
I've always been really like morbidly fascinated by death row, which is awful, but
yeah, I can relate. I know this story really well. Let's talk about this. Where did that take you?
Well, yeah, I mean, my obsession with death row took me to writing a whole play about it that you were cast in, and that's how we came together, which was amazing.
Exactly.
But the reason I'm fascinated by it is because I am so afraid of death, and I want to live so long because life is so wonderful, that I want to get behind the psyche of someone who knows to the minute when they're going to die. And like even like the topic of euthanasia and things like that, someone who, even though I'm a big believer in that because of the kindness of it, the actual decision making of that is so against what I want for myself that
you would never choose that?
Look, it's such a big question. The gut of me says no, but I have seen someone who I would have chosen it for pass away, and I think it's a wonderful that we have that choice. But the psychology behind it, because it's something I fear, I'm like, how could you choose that? So, yeah.
Why do you fear it, do you think? Was there an event or something that's happened in your life that's provoked that?
Yeah, look, I think I've been confronted death in my face quite a lot. Like, I've lost quite a lot of people, and I think just the finality of it, like, I do believe there's something else afterwards, but like just all the things that you miss experiencing with that person when they're gone, like especially now as a mum, I'm like terrified of how that would impact my son. Like, you know, he'll tell me all the time, like, I love you so much, Mummy, I couldn't live without you. And I'm like, you could, and you will one day. But I hope I'm 100.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I just think life is so incredible when we get one chance at it, and I just don't want that to end until I'm really, really old. And hopefully at that point I'll feel the readiness. But I'm always fascinated by material and media around that topic because it's something I'm uncomfortable with, and I think as humans it's interesting to delve deep into the things that you're not comfortable with, which is quite away from Lego, isn't it?
It's so interesting because that attraction is what is also confronting. It's like, why am I so attracted to it when I'm afraid of it? Like, why am I so intrigued by it?
But do you know, that's like probably like going on the show. Why go on something that I'm like, I'm not going to be good enough, I'm not going to be able to do that, and then you go, okay, I'm just going to do it. So maybe I am attracted to the things that I fear.
But maybe it's to push you. Maybe it's because I
want to understand.
Exactly.
I want to accept.
Maybe there's a boundary to it, and then by doing it is where you have the wisdom, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's the only place you have the wisdom. You can't just find the answer. You have to experience the answer. And maybe you're really good at immersing yourself into things to get the answer.
Yeah, I'm definitely an answers person. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll delve more into that. But I'm someone who needs all the information all the time.
Yeah.
I've always been like that.
How does that play out for you? Like, how is it limiting? Is it expanding? Like, how does it work? Does it work for you? Does it work against you?
A bit of both, probably.
Okay.
I mean, in my career, I'm hungry for knowledge. I cannot accept people who just go, I don't know how to do that. You do it. Like, I can't relate, because I'm like, if I don't know how to do it, my goodness, I'm going to work out how to do it. I'm going to, like, I work in event management software, and I'm passionate about discovery with it. Like, I'm bored if I know everything. So I'm always like, how could I use it in a different way? How could I know more? So it's
And do you work with people who are not like that?
Absolutely. And
so
difficult.
and are they just giving up? I spoke to a nurse yesterday, and she was saying that nurse students right now are so difficult to train because they are literally just saying, oh, I don't have the confidence to do that. She said, in my day, we got out the manual, we read the steps, and we did it. But they're basically saying, I don't have the confidence, sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah, wow. I think it's a generational thing as well. You know, I think about when I started in event software, there was no internet registrations. Everything was zip-zap for credit cards, manually going and processing payments and taking a check to the bank. And like, it's really old school. But because of that, you learn all the technique and you learn all the skill because you have to.
Yeah.
And now technology is in some ways so phenomenal. In other ways, it gives them an excuse. I don't need to learn that because ChatGPT will tell me that.
Yeah,
and
it's a laziness, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is. And I feel like, I work with great people, but there are people who don't want to know, because the more they know, the more they're going to be expected to do. And I find that so hard because I literally pride myself on knowing everything I can about the subject that I'm supposed to be an expert in.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be I'm a conference manager, so it's about being in control all the time.
Yeah.
And it's important to me to be in control. Yeah. Which was Lego Masters, harking back to that. That was the challenge sometimes, that I wasn't in control.
No.
I don't know what the theme's going to be. I don't know what the challenge, areas of judging are going to be. I don't know what Sarah's going to want to do today.
Did that excite you a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because you need to know all the facts. You were just saying that you need to know everything.
Yeah.
That is completely opposite to, you knew nothing.
I knew nothing.
In some of these situations.
Nothing. And that's where the drama comes from the show. You're like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But did every cell in your being just want to, hide under the desk, or how did that play out for you?
I think I just put myself into a completely different headspace where I had to give over to it, and it was quite freeing, actually.
That's so freeing,
because I'm used to being in control of everything. So I was like, well, I can't be for this. But then when I went back and did the Christmas special of the show, I felt like it was the perfect balance, because I knew it was Christmas themed. So I was like, well, I've got control here, that I can practice some things and get some ideas that maybe there'll be a challenge that I can use them. And this sort of was, but it just felt like the perfect balance of, I can be creative, but I can also have a little bit of control here.
Yeah, right.
Bit of creative control.
Do you feel like, because you had that experience for 12 weeks where you had no control whatsoever, did that change the way you see things when you came out? Did you approach work differently, or did you approach parenting differently, or anything in your life?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
Are you more relaxed? Do you because if you go from being, I know a lot of control I could call them freaks, control freaks. They have to control every element of everything in their lives.
Yeah.
If you go from that to having absolutely no control at all, then I guess when you come back to, there must be some kind of equilibrium that you find.
Yeah. I mean, I did enjoy in some ways passing all control over. It was like being a child for that 12 weeks. It was literally, this is what time you get up, this is what time you're on the bus, you're going to eat now. Like, it was...
That's probably quite comforting as well,
nice.
though, right? Because you had a routine too.
Yeah.
And so there's almost a control around the routine.
Yeah.
So you had a little bit of control, but it was just in a different way.
But I think as much as I'm love to be in control of the things that I'm, in my work and in my life and all of that, I'm such a, how do I put this? I don't need the control, and I'm not driven by the control. It's more about the desire for knowledge. I'm a real don't sweat the small stuff. I don't get... when I'm managing a conference, I'm incredibly calm about it. I'm not someone who will be like, I have to dictate to everyone. I really like to empower other people that I work with to have autonomy and to feel ownership of what they do. So there's a difference between being in control of your own knowledge and the way that you approach things to controlling other people. I think
that's really well articulated, because you're not doing it to be in control.
No.
You're doing it so that you can anticipate what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think,
there
are people who there's a lot of ego in being in control, but it's largely because they're insecure in themselves. But the more that you feed your knowledge and the more that you feel in control of what you do, the more that you can actually give other people the ability to take that in ownership themselves, and then you feel so great knowing that you've given them the gift of being able to run it themselves. And so I guess I gravitate to people who want to take ownership and want to take control, but not be controllers. I think that's the difference.
That's really well articulated. I think if we think about something else that you were out of control was during the show, or when the show went to air, was the impact of social media. And we're talking about egos, we're talking about fear. I think all of these emotions probably feed into this experience, not necessarily of yours, but the perpetrators or the people who felt like they had something that they needed to say to you or about you during that process. Can you tell us a bit about that, and how, if we think about the listeners and how this could potentially help them understand how to navigate social media and bullying in social media, and how to work with that either for themselves, or they might have children who are going through this as well.
I mean, look, the social media element of Lego Masters, I was completely unprepared for. I 100% naively thought that everything would be positive because I had such a good time, and I think I was kind to everyone and a good person. And it's a show about Lego, which is fun. So it floored me that every episode that came out, there would be hundreds of awful comments and people sliding into my DMs with abuse. Just unbelievable.
What sort of abuse are we talking? Can you give some examples?
About your looks, your personality, your builds, rubbish, all of it, it down to the level of, it makes me physically sick to watch you on my TV screen at night. You're so ugly.
Turn the TV off then. My God,
wow.
That's disgusting.
People are always going to have the builds that they prefer. That's fine. I don't care whether you like what I do or not, because art's subjective. It's not for everyone. But to attack my personality, my looks, there was even people, and this disgusted me, who would be like, the only reason that you didn't get eliminated in that episode must be that you're having an affair with Brickman. And I'm married, and Brickman Ryan has the most beautiful partner who's amazing. I was like, so it's such a misogynistic world out there that the only reason that I survived that, not because you did a good build or you're creative or artistic, is, you must be sleeping with someone. It was, and it was predominantly men, mostly. But then some of the comments were from mothers. And you're like, what example does that set for your children?
Yeah.
I would never in a million years, and it doesn't matter how passionately I feel about something, I would never comment on someone's social media in a negative way.
No.
And I will be teaching my child, or keep him off social media as long as possible. But when he does get on it, you lead with kindness, and it's the most important skill that we teach in our home, is you lead with kindness always. And
It's so beautiful.
honestly though, like, that's the best gift that you can give to people. What was really difficult about the social media thing was that it was just horrendous and shocking. And like most of the time I had a thick skin about it and went and stuffed them. But there was a couple of days where I just sobbed. I was like, this is crazy. My mum rang from New Zealand. Why are they saying these horrible things about you? And I was like, I literally don't know, Mum. Like, I was just building Lego and having the best time.
Yeah.
And it was weird because you're in this bubble on the show when you're filming, and it's so much fun. And then when it's airing,
Which is weeks later, right?
Oh, months
Like,
later.
It was how many, was
So
it 4
we
months?
wrapped in January and it came to air in April.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that time, like, no one knows you've done the show, anything like that. And then you think that when it airs, that's going to be like the payoff for all the hard work. It was so much fun. And it was just the opposite. It was like, I dreaded what people were going to say, but there were whole Reddit threads dedicated to hating me. And
I
I'm
can't
like,
believe people are so nasty. I remember us meeting up one day and you telling me
Yeah.
reading some of the comments
Yeah.
and just being absolutely horrified
it
that
was
people.
insane.
So it's not even truth.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes people can be passionate about the truth,
Yeah.
and they want to say it, right? They just want to share how they
Yeah.
feel about the truth. They were making up complete lies,
Yeah.
like about the way you look, your personality. It was just, to me, I don't understand. And maybe you've looked into it a little bit. I don't understand what drives that behaviour. Why are these people doing this? And you reached out to a couple. I remember you responded to a couple. You held from a lot, but there were just a couple that you just thought, you've gone too far.
Yeah, there was. And it's hard because when you're filming when the show's airing, you don't have your social media. So Endemol Shine and Channel 9, they have your social media, and you're not allowed to have a voice in that. So I would just have to take it. And it was really frustrating because there was people that were writing things that I was like, my mother's reading that. How dare you, as a parent yourself, think that that is okay to bring someone down, to tear them apart like you are with me? And yeah, my art might not be for you, but who cares? Like, where's your piece of art? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's almost like, but they're keyboard warriors because they're never going to say it to your face if they met you. In fact, like in public, I've never had a negative thing. I have had so much love. It's been, even now, and we're talking, I haven't been on screen for like 4 or 5 years, I still have so much love from people, still getting recognised from people, still people being so positive about the fact that Sarah and I were bubbly and fun and we had a good time. But it's almost like it's funny because I've got a lot of friends who in America, and they loved Sarah and I because we were quite big personalities and we were just ourselves, had a great time. But it's almost like in Australia, they want you to be quieter. They want you to be, and even more so as a woman. And I know that, like in the show, they kind of put you, it's like a character, but it's not. Like, it was never a character that I was playing, but we were the mums,
Yeah.
And there was a lot of focus on that in our Voxies and our little interviews that you do. And people were just ripped into that, oh, they're just these mums. And you're like, well, there's actually this whole other side of me that you don't know. Like,
I'm a human.
I'm
I
a
do
human.
other things.
I've had a career. I've done lots of really interesting things in my life. But you are only seeing, because the show isn't there to tell you about me and my story. It's here to tell you about Lego. And the mums is the fact that the sponsor's Kmart and mums shop at Kmart. And that's why they've given us, like, come on.
Yeah.
But it was, just such a weird time. And I had a couple of people saying, you are the worst mother. How could you leave your child for 3 months to
Clearly
film?
do not know you. You are one of the best mothers I know.
But it's such a funny thing because there's guys in the
incredible.
show, and not once were those guys asked, why did you leave your child for 3 months? It's like, well, we're the same. We're both parents.
Exactly.
I don't
That's
know, yeah, it's not
incredible.
having a voice in it, but as soon as I got my social media back, I actually went onto Reddit and I wrote a piece about how damaging that is for people, and they were very lucky that I'm a strong person who'd been through a lot in my life, and I have the ability to be able to compartmentalize and say, well, you don't know who I am. See, but if I had been 20, 21 years old and suffered hundreds of messages every week, it actually doesn't bear thinking about the impact that could have.
No.
There are reality TV stars all over the world
This happened
who
with
have taken their lives over that stuff.
Charlotte Dawson.
Yep, Charlotte Dawson. It is
New Zealander who had been bullied intensively.
absolutely.
And people just don't understand.
They don't
how
understand the
deep this
impact that
cuts.
words have.
Yeah.
And I said that to a few of them. I said, you know, words that you put on the internet, they stay forever now. So those are always there. You can't take those away. And is that the legacy that you want to have? Is that you sat and bullied someone that you don't even know?
Did people respond to you when you gave them that feedback
when I put
with
the thing
kindness?
on Reddit, I had so many comments of people going, I actually had someone apologise and say, I'm one of the people that wrote bad things about you, and I
Wow.
never even thought about the fact that you would read it and that you're a human. And I was like, well, there you go.
So what do these people think the internet is?
Exactly.
So the people that you're talking about are not even going to see what you're saying?
And the terrifying thing is that if these are parents doing it, then their children are going to do it too.
Yeah.
Because that's the example that you set.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're making it okay.
you are making it okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all very
Yeah.
well having a voice. You can have a voice.
Yeah.
But if it's not sharing your voice with kindness
Yeah.
or with love or with intention to provoke in a positive way, provoke change, then you're creating a huge amount of damage.
Totally. And I said to like quite a few times when I did respond, I said, I'm totally okay that you didn't like our build, but can I please ask you to use your words to build up the teams that you love rather than tear down the ones that you don't?
Wow, that's incredible advice.
Like, just do that.
That's so
Just
beautiful. This is what
find
I
the
love about
positive.
you, Fleur, your heart.
Just
It's
find the positive. Like,
It's
you know,
so kind.
You know.
Because you're focusing on what. Yeah. If you've got something to say it about something that makes a difference rather than hurt somebody. Yeah, that's
And
incredible.
you know, I was never mean to anyone on the show, and I stand by that. Like, there's not a single soundbite that they could put to make me a villain, because I genuinely cared about everyone and loved all those people.
Yeah.
And there are people that go onto these shows and probably open themselves up to a bit of there's never an excuse for that behavior online, but there are people who can be really mean on. But we weren't. So it was like really just a big shock that this reaction was so overwhelmingly rude. But then, funnily, when I came back on for the Christmas special a year later, there was no negative feedback. It was every single person online was so positive and kind.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It was
That's
really
so
weird. Like,
yeah, okay.
I was paired with Darren Palmer from the block. We had the best time. We felt really proud of what we did, but I was preparing myself for it, you know.
Wow.
And I've been asked to go back twice since my season to do full seasons.
Wow.
Season 5 and the one that's about to come out. And both times I've said no, and part of it probably is that experience. Bigger part is that it's 3 months out of your life, and I don't want to be away from my son and let my work down and all that. But that does play into it. You're like, I've been on TV and I've built. I now build for myself, and I feel really proud of what I do because I can take my time and I can build what I want to build. I don't feel like I need to tick the box by going back on TV just for airtime.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
who I am. I don't need it. So
And also, that's one thing that you're not in control of, the response, right? Like you
You're
say,
not.
you could go in and do an incredible job and just have fun,
yeah,
and then bang.
someone's going to be like, I don't like her nose. I
Yeah.
don't like her dress.
Who
I don't like
cares?
anything about you.
Oh my God, what do you like about your own life?
It's-
You know,
yeah.
so what's the advice then for, let's say, a parent who's going through it either themselves or with their children? Because I know there's a lot of online bullying starting quite young now. I've heard
So
stories
scary.
of, you know, 8-year-olds feeling suicidal, which is just horrendous. And you've talked about Heston not going onto social media as long as you can cope. We'll talk about that in a second. But what would you say for our listeners who are either struggling themselves or they're struggling with their kids' being bullied on social media, what can they do?
Well, I mean, definitely get the visibility of it. Make sure that you're seeing what they're seeing, like have no passwords on their accounts or know all their passwords and be looking.
Yeah.
Because kids can hold everything in. They're not going to tell you what's going on. You have to have visibility of it. And it's not about invading their privacy. It's about protecting them from that.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a fine line, isn't there? So people are really pushing into this whole, you're invading your child's privacy, you're not allowing them to be who they are and to have their free speech, but ultimately you're potentially keeping them alive.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, this is how serious it is.
There's bullies, there's predators, like, you know, you've got to have visibility.
Yeah.
You know, for goodness sake, I started playing a game on my iPad because my son's playing it. Now I like it, but at the time I was
Which
like,
one
this
is it?
Township.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, it's just a mindless, but I played it because I wanted to make sure that no one could contact him.
Wow.
And that he could be in a little co-op, but just with his mum.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him with strangers who can then get into his head.
It's so scary parenting a child
terrible.
right now. My children are adults, and
insane.
I just can't imagine how difficult it is to be a parent right now.
It's so scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is just like empower your child to lead with kindness and to understand that the person that's bullying is probably sad in themselves, and it's actually not about you. It's not about you, the child.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done.
It is, especially, you know, as kids are going into teen years and they're wanting to be a part of the tribe, they're wanting to belong.
Yeah.
You know, they're ostracised from their social group if they don't comply.
Yeah.
That's really difficult. But I think, again, coming back to that leading with kindness, I think if we lead with kindness and we understand that we can only do the best we can do, and if we've got our support of our parents, which is often not enough for a teenager or for a preteen, because being loved by your parents is not being accepted by your social group sometimes, and sometimes it conflicts. So
I think maybe like with kids, educating them that when it comes to friendships, quality over quantity. You don't have to have 10 friends who don't treat you well. It's better to have one who loves you and is going to protect your heart and protect who you are.
Yeah, that's
like,
beautiful.
I think we do, you know, always kids want to have as many friends, as many people to their birthday party and all that sort of stuff, but it's actually like about finding the people. And I think as an adult that's so relevant. Like, I have less friends now, but the friends like yourself are the quality people who would have my back over anything, and likewise, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't need to have 100 friends. I really don't. Like,
and again, it comes back to parents educating their children. It's not just an education, though, because it's a knowing, right?
Yeah.
So we could tell our kids things, but they're not going to land sometimes because it's not in alignment with the social group that they're hanging out with. How do we, and obviously with Heston, I am watching you be an incredible mother with Heston. It just makes my heart glow watching Heston. I absolutely adore him. He's such a beautiful person.
Yeah.
And how do you, when he does come home from school and he wants to be loved or liked by someone or people, like a group of people, because quite often that's when it's a problem, when there's more than one person, right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that when all he wants is their attention?
Yeah, it's hard. It's funny, just on the social media thing, it's almost like, if I think about it, that situation I went through in Lego Masters was sent to me so that I have that for when Heston's a teenager, because I'm going to know exactly what he's going through.
Yes.
And it's going to empower me to go, I actually know. I've been there.
Yeah.
Which is, so I'm grateful for that in a way.
But
no, Heston, like, he went to holiday program this week at a different school, and he came home on the Wednesday, and I said, "You have a good time?" "Yeah, I had a good time." And then he said to me a little bit later, "I was actually quite lonely today because no one wanted to play with me." And I was like, oh, my heart, my heart. And I said to him, well, it's hard when you go to a new school and you don't know those people, and like, tomorrow's a new day, and tomorrow you might have different people that you can connect with. And he did,
Oh, good.
And when I went to drop him off the next day, I just spoke to the educators and said, look, he found yesterday a bit hard to socially connect. if you can just help him with that a little bit today. Like, but we're lucky. He's in a small school with where everyone knows everybody, and we don't really have to navigate that one just yet. He's got his couple of friends that he plays with all the time, but it's coming. Like, when he gets to high school, I am going to have to be really resilient to how I, make him feel empowered to be okay with the fact that not everyone's going to want to play with him. And yeah, I mean, the big thing I can do is just show him enormous love all the time and make him feel so strong and so, like, loved and full in that department at home.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I can do. But that's not going to be enough one day.
But what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, you as a parent, is you're constantly communicating with him. And I think as parents, sometimes we stop that because the child gets lost in the need so much. And so as a parent, we kind of almost comply with their need. And we allow them to drive that behaviour rather than us. And coming back to what we were saying earlier, we're potentially protecting them from dying when we are, yes, we might be invading their privacy. But as a parent, sometimes, and I know I've got some regrets as well, where I've allowed my children to do things when I shouldn't have. I should have actually said, no, you know what? I'm the parent. I have the insight. I understand that you need to fit in, and I understand this needs to take place for you to feel okay amongst your peers. But this is not good for your mental health. This is not good for your future. But it's such a fine line as a parent.
Such a fine line. And look, Heston sits on the spectrum, and in a way that makes it easier for me because communication's been something that's been so important from such a young age that we're used to it, like we always help him navigate situations. Excuse me. So it's always going to be challenging, and I have to advocate way harder than with someone who is a child of normal. So
what is normal these days?
What is
really,
normal?
isn't it?
And
we had this discussion earlier about neurodivergence, or however you frame the ability or the wisdom that your child has, right? And I really love the way that you frame Heston's mind. He's quirky and he's
super quirky.
So intelligent. He's super, super intelligent.
He is, but socially he's got a lot to learn, and he doesn't find it as easy to navigate. So that was really hard when he didn't have a voice. The older that he's getting, the better he is at communicating. I'm actually finding that it's easier because he will actually tell me now, I was feeling lonely. And that's a big win just in itself.
That's
for
huge.
You to articulate to me, that's how you're feeling. I can then help you. We can talk about that.
But you've put in the hard work, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's been hard work sometimes.
It's been a lot
But
of work.
also so rewarding.
Yeah. So for parents who do have children who are quirky and, either highly intelligent and, sometimes lost in their own world, how do they get that communication? How do they, like if the child is reluctant to communicate, how can they break through that to communicate with their child?
Well, for me, the big key is eye contact and taking him out on adventures all the time where we've got lots of one-on-one time. And time is the best gift that you can give your children, but it's even more important for kids who are neurodiverse on the spectrum because they don't always see the world the way that everyone else sees it. But what the challenge is if you want them to live in the mainstream world, which is what most of them are going to have to do, you need to put them in as many different situations as you can. I think there's lots of different views on this, and not everyone will agree with my style of parenting on it, but I almost fight against the autistic traits. So people will say, people who don't know the spectrum intimately will be like, oh, well, my child needs routine because they're autistic, so they have to have routine. And I'm like, no, let's go the opposite direction. We don't really, other than the routine of getting up in the morning and going to bed at night, we don't have a routine other than going to school, really. Every weekend we'll do something different. There's not a routine. And the more that you fight against the routine, it doesn't become an issue anymore, because for him, it's like it's all he's ever known.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like setting them up for the success of being in the normal world while still celebrating their difference. And but there's a fine line there of navigating it so that you're not just going, oh well, he's on this. I explained to someone the other day, his principal. I said to her, being on the spectrum isn't an intellectual disability, so don't treat him like he has one.
Right.
If you hold him to the same standard as other children, and if you speak to him like an adult, like everybody else does, you will find that he is more normal for you.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he's going to feel respected.
Yeah.
But if you talk to him like he's 3 years old and like he's stupid, because he's certainly not.
No way.
But they call it a spectrum for a reason. Everyone is so different. So we don't necessarily, like, I've never read a book on it for a reason. I don't want to. It's so fun. I always want to be in control and have all the knowledge, but not about that.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're really spontaneous in that. And I think also what you're talking about now is, Heston constantly has a different situation that he needs to navigate.
Yeah.
And so, we're going on a different train today, or we're going to a different playground, or we're going to a different adventure park, or a different city. And so he's constantly having to navigate change.
Yeah.
In which case, when change happens in the future, especially when he's on his own and he doesn't have someone guiding him through, he will be so robust in change.
Yeah.
He'll be so fluid. He is so fluid.
Totally.
And you could see how he could so easily become routine.
Yes.
But because you're giving him these opportunities to experience difference, I think that's incredible.
And I think, like, it's a controversial opinion for sure, but I think parents and the way that we choose to parent kids who are on the spectrum massively shapes how that is going to look for that child.
Agree.
Because I've seen and know parents who are like, my child's a bit different, I'm going to protect them, and they're just doing it from a good place.
Yeah.
But it's actually detrimental to the child, because they're not forcing them into situations that they're uncomfortable with. We all have to face situations we're uncomfortable with.
Yeah, that's
None of us are good at it.
Yeah.
But like, even harder for a kid who's got some quirks. So make them, the earlier you can, the younger you can, that you can break through all of those things.
Yeah.
Like, there are some people who will meet Heston now who won't realise that he's on the spectrum.
No.
So highly functioning, he's so, exuberant, and like, when you spend a bit of time with him, you'll be like, yeah, he's a bit different, a bit quirky. But, even his psychologist, we had him with a psychologist last year for 6 months, and we just graduated. And she said...
You graduate from that, do you?
Graduated.
Okay.
She said to me, I don't think he needs to come anymore. And I fought with the school and, through her, for the right to not diagnose him, because we felt for him it's just a word. And it's like, what does it change for Heston?
Yeah.
Well, nothing, because nothing about the way we treat him, the way he is in life, is going to change by having this word attached to him.
Yeah.
And that's not for everyone. Some people need the word and they need the diagnosis because they need the funding and all that kind of stuff. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's not for everyone. And I think you as a parent, just because you have a neurodiverse child, you don't have to go down the prescribed path of what that might mean. You can just go, well, let's live in Heston's world, because it's a great one to live in.
It's a great world. I love Heston's world.
And when he wants to have these random conversations with you, you listen.
Yeah.
And you feel like what he brings to you and the love and the joy that he brings to me, he's the best thing in my life. Like,
he's so beautiful. He's such a gift, isn't he?
He really is.
And I feel like, there are a couple of different ways of looking at this, right? There's one where some children who become adults who haven't been diagnosed can look back on their life and say, if I was diagnosed, I would have known that I was different, and I would have known how I was different and why I was different, and that brings some complex understanding to that child.
Totally.
But then on the other hand, that child is put into a box And then in that box, there's certain expectations which you've come up against, without him even being diagnosed. You've come up against, like, well, this is how we're going to treat him because they're treating him like a 3-year-old potentially.
Totally.
So this is something that I've always been quite aware of labeling a child something where they become the thing that they've been labelled.
That's right. And they can lean into it.
Exactly.
And a kid like Heston, because he's smart, he'll lean into it.
Yeah.
He'll just go, I don't know, to everything if you're going to treat him like that. It's a really interesting one to navigate. But, I would say that, maybe we got lucky, I'm not sure, but through what we've done as parents, my husband and I, and how we've approached it, we haven't had a meltdown from Heston since he was 5 years old, and he's 8 now.
That's incredible.
And there are not many children on the spectrum who you could say who you could say I've had 3 years without a meltdown.
No
but
way.
Because the second that we even get an elevation, I will say to him, do you need to react like that? What are you in control of?
Wow.
You're in control of your response. You can't control anything else around you, but you can control your response. And immediately he'll settle back down. We don't ever have to get to a meltdown because we've never gone, well, you're allowed to have a meltdown because you're autistic. And
you told me a story recently actually about how he actually replicated
Yes.
that with one of his friends, didn't he? He's like, he needs to calm.
Yeah,
I don't
one
know
of
why
his
he's
friends
responding.
did have like a big meltdown in the playground, and Heston said to me, Mummy, I think he might need to practice some calming strategies.
I love that.
And
he's absorbing everything, isn't he?
He is.
He really is.
Yeah, but you just celebrate people's difference. It would be so boring if everyone was the same. I love that. And if at 16 years he says to me, I want to work out what's different about my brain, I will be all for him getting a diagnosis if that is what he wants.
Yeah.
But I don't need to choose that for him right now.
It's not going to make any difference to his life right now.
Yeah.
Is how, as a parent right now, like I said earlier, I just can't imagine bringing a child up in this day and age.
So
social
hard.
media with, conflicting parenting advice.
Yeah.
With so much information available to us about being the best parent, and then being shamed and blamed for not following a particular way of being a parent.
Yeah.
How the heck do you bring up a child this day and age? I don't envy anyone who's had a child. What would you say would be, say, your top couple of strategies to keep yourself sane, but also to be able to bring your game to Heston? Because you bring your game all the time. And I know that you're working full time, you're tired, you're exhausted. Because not only do you work full time, you work over and above your role at work. So how do parents who have got all of these stresses, I mean, we've got relationships as well on top of that we've got to navigate.
Totally.
That in itself is just a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll say, I'm really lucky. I've got a husband who's an incredible father, who's very, very present for Heston. What we do that's probably very unusual is we don't do a lot of things together as a family. In the weekend, we have a day each. And that other day when you're not on for Heston, you have for yourself, and you can choose what you do with your day. And I think taking space for yourself is so important because it then re-energizes you to come back in and give the energy that you need. I'd also say just don't read books about parenting. I chose that from the second that I got pregnant. I chose to never read a single book about being a parent.
Wow.
I thought, well, I don't think I'm prepared for this, but I'm sure that innately I'll know what to do when the time comes. And you just do.
It's a response, right?
Just a response.
You're just responding.
Yeah. And every day there's something new and something different.
Yeah.
And
every child's different. So if you're reading a book on how to parent a child, your child might not even fit into that mold, because, I mean, these strategies are around a particular style of behaviour that a child might have, and then you're responding to that. You've just got to respond to the child in front of you,
Totally.
Right?
And all the milestones and stuff. I remember people saying, the child should walk by this age, and it's, Heston he walked at 1. I think it was very normal. But if you think about it, other than people who have a medical issue, how many 5-year-olds don't walk?
Yeah, exactly.
They all get there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when they get there.
No,
he was late to talk. Doesn't matter. He won't stop now.
Exactly.
I think we put so much pressure on ourselves as parents to fit this norm or to do what, a book tells you're supposed to do. Just listen to your child. Just
That's
listen to them
beautiful.
and what they need, and just give them time and give them your energy.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
I think those two things, or three things: listen to your child, give them the time, give them the
Yeah.
energy. Those three things alone,
Yeah.
that's a parenting book.
Well, if you're
That is
doing
the
that,
shit.
and if you're doing it consistently right from when they're born, then when they get to a teenager, they are comfortable come and talk to you about stuff because you've always been that person for them.
Yeah.
Like, I have faith, and I really hope, and things might change with puberty and this might come back to bite me, but I really hope that because of the foundation that Heston and I have and how close we are, that when he's 12, if someone was to say something to him on social media, I'm going to be the first one he comes to.
Yep.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
And he just has so much love for you. Can you share the story that you shared with me before we started talking, what he did this morning with you?
Well, see, he woke up at 7 a.m. and we were staying down at his grandmother's because he's staying there for the week. And he said, "Open your eyes, Mummy, because I love you, and I'm going to cuddle you. And we have to look into each other's eyes when we love each other, and when we have a cuddle, because then you can see that we mean it." And it was just,
Oh my God, he's just the most precious person.
and I mean, like, it's 7
He's-
a.m. and most of me just wants to still be asleep, but you can't be angry
You
because
can't.
you're like, "Oh,
You
that's
gotta love-
so sweet."
You've got to love that.
Yeah,
Oh, he's so beautiful.
he's just liquid sunshine. I'm so lucky. And I do know how lucky I am, because I do know parents who have kids on the spectrum, which is a much harder ride for them. I have friends who have non-verbal kids. I have friends who have kids who melt down all the time. And I know there's a thing in their brain that they can't control. I'm very lucky that I have what I have with Heston, a default of joy. And
Yes.
I know how lucky I am.
Liquid sunshine, you said.
He is liquid sunshine.
I love that.
He is.
He is liquid sunshine.
Yeah.
He's so adorable. You're liquid sunshine, and this is where it comes from, because you do put in the work.
Yeah.
You have put in so many hours. I've seen you when you've been completely exhausted, and then you're about to spend an entire day with Heston, and you go on an adventure. You go catch a train, because Heston loves trains, and so you'll do a full day adventure, and you're exhausted, you're completely depleted, and you still do it for him,
Yeah.
which is just incredible as a parent.
Well, you've been on a couple of those adventures with me, and I'm so grateful for that, because that's the mark of a real friend who actually wants to know him as well and knows that we're a package. And, I have a couple of close friends who really love Heston, but I have a lot of friends who've not really even met him or spent any time with him, because they're like, "Well, I don't have kids, or my kids are older and I don't really need that." And
They don't realise what they're missing out on.
and I just think, it's
The
so
liquid sunshine, they're
it's
missing out on
special to
that.
have friends like you who really do let him be who he is.
Yeah.
And-
Well, he's so cool.
Yeah.
He's such an incredible human.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
I love
it's
him.
good.
We could talk about Heston for hours,
could.
couldn't we? He's so brilliant. I wanted to just tap into your earlier days, and you used to be fully into musical theatre,
Yeah.
and that took you to London.
It did, yeah. So I did a performing arts diploma in 1996, and then
Yesterday.
It's just yesterday,
Oh.
I don't know where it goes. And then I moved to London to
Wow.
pursue theatre, and it's a hard road over there for sure. I had some pretty funny auditions where I just thought, why am I even here? I remember going to audition for West Side Story and literally singing like 8 notes and them going, "Okay, thank you."
Oh, that's
And you're
such a
like-
dagger to the heart.
Okay.
Oh,
and you'd be
wow.
in the line with dancers who had their legs up to here, and you're just like,
You're like, yep, I can do that too.
Obviously not gonna do
just,
that.
Just not going to do it in front of you. I'll do it
No.
later.
So yeah, I did a little
Did you knock
bit
on
of...
any good doors? Or
Oh, I did an off-Broadway show under Milkwood over there. But mainly I worked in bars.
right, okay.
It was
the typical
super
actor's life, right?
Yeah.
Working till you
Yeah.
make it, but then
I
really
had
difficult to
a
make
year
it.
in my life where I was full-time performing in 2004, toured New Zealand with a Shakespeare company, and then I did Godspell, 2 seasons of that, and I did a couple of kid shows and stuff. So yeah,
So why
but
did you stop doing that?
look, it's just it's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
And I guess I just decided that I would rather do it as a hobby and enjoy it and do community theatre and have my career in events. So
Yeah.
yeah. But it was, I mean, I miss it. I definitely miss it.
Did you feel like going back to Lego was a little bit of a kind of a flavour of that?
Yeah. It reconnected me with being creative.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nice. Awesome. Would you go back to musical theatre?
Yeah, I would if circumstances were different. I think right now, like going to rehearsals 3-4 times a week isn't really fitting in with my lifestyle.
No.
So, but
what if you could give up your job, so you're not having to work? What would be your dream? I want to say job, but let's just say occupation or the way that you spend your day.
Yeah.
Would it make its way into that dream day?
Yeah, look, not even as a profession, just for like my hobby and my fun. Definitely there'd be Lego, but I would buy a piano and I'd get back to writing music again and doing theatre again for sure.
Wow.
I loved it. You know, I wrote a musical when I was 21 and that was an amazing
What was it called?
Shell Shock.
Shell Shock? Mm-hmm. Was it anything to do with the army?
It was. It was
really?
About World War II.
And then you married someone from
I did, randomly, my second husband.
Wow.
I know. It was, I went to the Scars on the Heart exhibition at the museum in Auckland, and it was about, it had all these phones that you could pick up and you could listen to stories of like telegrams of people whose their child had been at the war.
Oh, wow.
And
real ones?
Real ones. And I listened to it and I was so impacted by it because I had only 6 months before had a phone call when I was in London to tell me that my twin brother had died. So I felt an understanding of what it is to receive a message like that.
Wow.
And my way of dealing with that was to write a musical, I guess, about loss. And so it went on. And
so was that influenced by the loss of Tim as well?
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah, totally. Like it started with one song that I wrote about him.
Wow.
And then I went to that exhibition and I went, oh, okay, I think I actually understand a little bit about, I mean, it's hard to, of course I don't understand what the war was like, but I understand what loss is like, and I understand what someone turning up on your doorstep, because that's what happened to me in London. Someone turned up at the doorstep of the place I was staying, because when my brother died, it was before social media, before cell phones.
Yep.
If I wanted to call home, it was with a payphone.
Yep.
So my parents literally had to call London Interpol, and they had to send someone around to the hostel I was staying in, knock on the door and wake me up from my bed and say, you need to call home because something's happened.
Oh, how horrendous.
Yeah, and I was literally on my own at 20 years old, told your twin brothers died and had to get on a plane that afternoon.
Wow.
So I think...
So you called home and then they told you. Was somebody with you when you called home? The Interpol, did they stay with you? Do you remember?
Just people in the hostel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so then you're literally just packing your life up.
Yeah, I got on a plane about 4 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you never returned back to London?
Never returned back. And I've returned back on holiday years later, but I didn't go back.
Did you take everything with you, or did you leave things behind and you just like, I'll come back? Or
just packed
the
one
intention
suitcase.
was to leave?
Yeah, intention was to leave, I guess. I just was like, well, my family are going to need me now.
Yep.
So, and they did,
Wow.
But
that's horrendous. No one should have to get that kind of news. It's really...
And I think, like, as much as we talk about, like, the craziness of internet and social media, the connection that we have now is so much more instantaneous, and, like, nobody would ever have to go through that now because people would be able to phone and text and...
Video even, right? So you're actually face-to-face with video, digitally face-to-face. That makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So do you feel that, other than the musical, do you feel like Tim has influenced your way of being in your life at all?
100%. I think it's the reason that when I talked before in my career about being calm under pressure, and why I could probably do a show like Lego Masters and be calm, because when you experience big real stuff, the rest of it, don't sweat the small stuff, but it's true. It teaches you to love more openly and to not leave things unsaid.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely... Yeah, it was a really, really difficult thing to go through. It was hard watching my parents become like children themselves, like such a hard thing. Parents should never have to experience that. Everything about it was just super confronting, but it has just made me go, well, we've got one life. You got to really live it. You've really got to...
Helps you put it into perspective.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Because it was him and his girlfriend.
Him
too,
and his
wasn't
girlfriend,
it?
yeah, both died.
Such
car
young
accident.
age. Yeah.
She was 17 and he was 20.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago now, and time is the only thing that heals those situations, and it definitely does.
Yeah.
But it has helped me to help other people when they navigate that kind of thing. You know, we lost my father-in-law in 2020, just before I filmed Lego Masters, and I was able to be the strong one in that for my husband's family as they navigated what that was going to be, the loss of him. And I don't know that I would have been able to do that if I hadn't gone through what I went through at 20 years old with Tim.
So what do you think is the strategy or the things that you can do if you're navigating that at the moment? Like if we've got listeners at the moment who have lost somebody or are losing somebody, how do they navigate that?
It's so hard. I remember writing a whole 20 pages about grief at the time, to try and get in my head what was going on in my head. So I'd say writing's helpful.
Wow. Have you kept that?
Do I still have it?
Yeah,
I have it somewhere.
Oh, wow.
I think it's, I'll find it and share it with you, because I think that probably has got a lot of insight into it, just that they talk about the stages of grief, and there definitely are. And I think you have to give yourself the grace to go through the stages, go through the anger, go through the days where you're laughing and then you go, oh my God, why am I laughing? He's died. But you're actually allowed to live. So you've got to give yourself permission to also move on.
Yeah.
And I think, majorly just honour that person by having the best life that you can have. They wouldn't want you to sit, be enveloped in grief for years and years and years. They wouldn't.
No.
And, every death is difficult. The people, like my brother was sudden, an accident. My father-in-law was 5 months. He was very sick, and that was we had longer to process that it was going to happen, which helps you accept it more. But you don't want to see that person go through that. So I think everyone is different. I just think you got to be kind to yourself when you're going through that stuff, and there isn't any rule book for it.
No.
I would say if you've got friends who have gone through loss, 3 months after they've lost that person, whatever the time frame might be, turn up at their doorstep and give them some food or something, because people are so there for you in the first 3 to 4 weeks. Everyone's there to the point you don't want them there. You're give me some space. But then a few months later, everyone's lives carry on, but yours is forever changed. And it's that isolating feeling. So I think I'm very conscious of that now when I have friends who lose people, that I'll let them know I'm there right at the time, but I'll check in with them much later, because I know the first year, how hard the first year is, all the things that happen and all the firsts without them. It's tough. So,
and I think also for the people who are the support people or the friends of, we forget quite quickly about that person or the impact that person's having, but the person who's had the loss is living with it every single day.
Yeah.
And that's a really beautiful thing to do, is just check in, after 3 months, even 6 months. And then on the anniversary, right, that's going to be really painful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And as the person that's lost someone, don't be afraid to say to people after 3-6 months, this is still happening for me and I need you. You don't have to go alone on it. No. And also counselling is excellent, There are amazing counsellors out there. I actually went to counselling 5 years after my brother died, for a year.
Wow.
And it was so helpful.
How did you know that you needed to go? Had something happened, or did you have some kind of meltdown, or did things gradually get more difficult? I think it was just
gradually that I just felt like I needed to talk to someone who wasn't so close to the situation. I think I was finding it really hard to navigate how much my parents, especially my dad, had changed from being such a funny person to being this just sad all the time. And I kind of just needed someone who wasn't immediately attached to talk through it with, because I felt like I had to kind of step in and be the parent, and almost that I couldn't grieve myself. And it was so helpful. It's so helpful just to give
underrated sometimes, isn't it? Just talk therapy, talking about it, and also talking about it with someone who's not judging you for what you're saying, but allowing you just to be present with your thoughts,
totally,
and your feelings. Even 5 years later, I mean, it's a lifetime experience, isn't it? It's not suddenly you just don't feel anything in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's still a loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little quick fire question round, Fleur.
Okay.
I've got some questions here for you.
Yeah.
We get to have a little bit of an insight into Fleur's mind, which I love.
Be interesting.
Yeah, let's get ready for it. Okay, so what I want you to do is just answer with the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Some of these might be a little bit challenging for you. I hope so.
Okay.
Lego or theatre?
Theatre.
That was really quick.
That's easy.
Great. Bricks or glitter?
Bricks.
Easy one. Morning or night?
Night.
Your power colour?
Dark green.
Dark green.
Most people would say red because I love
I
it.
would have said red, and I know you so
I know,
well.
or yellow, but I love dark green.
Dark
it's earthy
green.
and
Ooh.
makes me think of nature, and I love it.
Oh, I love that. I just learnt something about Fleur. Your favourite Lego set ever?
The Lego Grand Piano, which is designed by Donnie Chen, who's an Australian, and he's one of the only Australians, there's two I think, who had a Lego Ideas set come up. And I've met him and I've fangirled so hardcore. Now I would say he's, like a friend, acquaintance, very talented man. That set's beautiful.
Why? What makes it so...
It plays.
Oh.
And it's...
Like in tune?
It's got like a recording device inside it.
Oh, yeah.
But the keys move. It's such
Wow.
a technically clever build that the keys move and everything. It's just gorgeous, super hard to build.
I was just about to say that because you'd have to link up all the keys, right? To a mechanism
it's
or
all
something?
technic based. It's really challenging, but man, it's a work of art.
Wow.
He is proud of it. It's
That's
stunning.
awesome.
He's amazing.
Awesome. Bold or subtle?
Bold.
Sweet or savoury?
Sweet. That's hard.
There was a bit of
Because,
a hesitation.
cheese. Well, it's always a cheese or chocolate thing.
Cheese or chocolate. Just take them both.
I probably do. I would do both. I probably, if I had to choose between, a chocolate mud cake or some cheese, I'd probably go the mud cake.
Yep. Okay. Mud cake it is. Dream travel destination? Either been there or not.
Yeah, New York. Because
Why?
it's the theatre capital of the world, and I've been there 3 times, and it's just...
Do you just go to shows?
Just go to
every time?
shows.
Yeah.
Each time I've gone, I went by myself a couple of years ago, and I went to a show every single day for a week.
So cool.
It's amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah. The last thing that made you belly laugh?
We went to a show
talk about it?
a few weeks ago, a week or so ago, called Club Cabaret, and it was amazing. It was a great night, and there was a man in the show who was the drag queen, and he stripped down and then dove genitals first into a cream cake and spun around, and it was so unexpected.
So unexpected.
It was like the best moment.
Literally kept it spinning.
Kept it spinning. I was like, I don't know how that's not painful or how that's even working, but just the cream and his complete abandon that he did. It was just like no fear, no qualms, just straight in there. That made me belly laugh.
And then what about when he stood up? He's just so proud.
He's so proud.
Yes,
stood
I
up,
did that. I just
flick
did
that cream off to people. It was so good.
That was awesome.
I loved it. That's fearlessness at its best.
That's a good belly laugh. One word, this is the last one of the quick round. One word to describe your life right now.
Gosh, that's hard. Full.
Oh. In a good way?
In a good way.
Yeah.
My life is full.
Yeah. You got a lot going on.
Got a lot going on, but it's
Yeah.
good.
And it's all good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Yeah.
It's exciting times.
Yeah. This is going to be a great year, 2025.
I feel like it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, for sure. I've got 3 more questions for you, ones that I ask every guest.
Okay.
And the first one is, what is one of the wildest things that you've done?
Probably moving to the Middle East for 5 years. I lived in Abu Dhabi. My husband went for a job there, and I followed 3 months later. I had no idea what he was doing over there and just took the leap of faith and ended up having my son over there. And that was an eye-opening world to be in for 5 years. So it's probably one of the wildest things.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
When you had to make the decision to go, how did you feel about that? Was it an excitement? Was it a trepidation? Like
A bit of both. I was nervous because my knowledge of the Middle East extended to what you might see on SBS News or something. And there are things when you get there that can be really confronting, like, you know, guns at the airport, everyone, you know, all the signs in Arabic and stuff. But actually, it's the safest place I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
So my misconceptions of it, like, it became home for me, and there's a lot about it that's challenging, but it was a great experience.
And you spent 5 years there. You were only going for a couple, weren't you? And then
I thought we'd go for 2.
Yeah.
And then we were for 5, yeah.
Wow.
It's a long time.
Nice. Okay, and what is one of the wackiest things you've done? There's plenty, I'm sure.
There are lots.
There's a whole list of these
I've had
ones.
lots of wacky jobs. And one of the wackiest jobs that I had was in London, and I was a wax hand modeller. So I had people line up to dip their hand or other body parts, as requested, into boiling hot wax multiple times, and then they went into cold water, and then we painted it.
Oh, wow.
And it never looked like their hand, because when you're trying to get it off their hand, it would go all, like, out of shape.
Oh, no.
And I just found that to be a really wacky job. Like,
what about the other, can you talk about the other body parts that people wanted?
some guy wanted to put his dick in there.
Whoa. Did
Yeah.
he?
I said, if you're happy to put it in hot wax, I'm happy to do it. But he ended up taking it out of it. But
Oh, wow.
it was just a really random job.
That's so
time in my
wacky.
life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the joys. And our last question for today.
Yeah.
What makes humans wonderful?
I think what makes humans wonderful is our desire to discover and explore. I think that we as a humanity are never happy with just what's in our safe four walls. Most of us aren't. We want to go and travel. We want to have new experience. We want to connect with people. That desire for discovery and knowledge is unique to humans. We're not interested in sitting in our one spot. Just we want to know more.
Yeah.
I think that's what's wonderful about humans.
That's pretty wonderful. And
Yeah.
you are the epitome of that. You're constantly
so.
discovering and exploring and increasing your knowledge, as we were talking about before.
Yeah.
You know, you're always wanting to know more so that you can be the best human that you can, right?
Even if it's morbid topics, yes, I do.
Even if it's true
I
crime.
want to know as much as I can.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
awesome.
that. Like, we should keep discovering until the day that we discover what is on the other side.
Yeah,
should be doing
exactly.
that.
And then hopefully that's a long way
Hopefully
away.
it's a long way away, and hopefully it's an even better adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is only phase 1.
Hope so.
We've got so many more adventures to come. All right. Thank you so much, Fleur. This, honestly, I feel so honoured to be your friend. I feel so honoured to have you as a guest on Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. And I know 1,000,000% that our listeners are going to have so many incredible golden nuggets of wisdom from you on so many of the topics that we've talked about today. And, you know, thank you for leading with kindness. Thank you for being the best human you could possibly be, and for embracing other humans for the people that they are, you know, for the truth that they are. And you are one of the least judgmental people I know, because you lead with kindness.
Thank you. I feel exactly the same way about you, and I'm so honoured to be able to be here as a guest with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aw.
Wow, what a conversation. Whew. Honestly, I could have chatted with Fleur for hours, and I actually had no idea how much time had passed. What I love most about this conversation is how you truly get to experience how she lives so deeply from her heart, whether she's parenting, navigating grief, or just bringing joy to her builds or her everyday life. There are a few moments I just want to circle back to because they were just so powerful. Like the way that she handled the social media abuse after Lego Masters, and she still chose to speak with kindness and strength. That takes guts. It's so easy to retaliate, and yet she stood in her kindness. It's incredible. And her parenting, wow, her approach to raising Heston, giving him variety, helping him build resilience, refusing to define him by a label, this is the kind of love that changes lives. And then her insights on grief, the reminder that we can laugh again, we can live again, and that doing so is actually one of the best ways to honour the people we've lost. And also, everything she said about Heston is so true. He really is liquid sunshine. I love that term. Fleur and her husband give him exactly what she spoke about. Time. As parents, we truly undervalue the quality of time for our kids. As humans, including kids, all we want is to be seen and heard, and someone dedicating time to us, that's just such a precious gift. If you take anything away from today, maybe it's this. We're all navigating a lot, and it's okay to do it imperfectly. But if we lead with kindness, stay curious, and we hold space for the people around us, including our kids, then we're doing pretty damn well. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you love this chat, please share it with someone you care about. Leave a review or hit that follow button. It really helps to grow this beautiful community we're building, one wild, wacky, wonderful human at a time. And as always, stay wild, stay wacky, and stay wonderful. Thanks for tuning in to Wild, Wacky, Wonderful Humans. If you had fun, share it with someone just as wild and wonderful as you. Stay wild, stay wonderful, stay wacky, and I'll catch you next time.